If someone walked into a luxury restaurant wearing torn clothes, what would you do? Would you smile or avoid eye contact? Would you offer them a seat or call the staff to escort them out? Welcome back to our channel, where we share fictional stories about real-life celebrities. But within them, you'll find deeply true lessons about kindness, character, and humanity. Today, we dive into a powerful story. When Elon Musk, one of the most influential men in tech, decides to disguise himself as a homeless man just to observe how the world treats those who seemingly have nothing. No bodyguards, no luxury cars, no fame, just a man with eyes open to see and a heart seeking to understand. So what did he discover? Who had the courage to stand up for a stranger? And what ending left an entire restaurant completely silent in disbelief? If you're someone who believes in compassion, in the power of small actions, this is a story you won't want to miss. Tap subscribe and turn on the notification bell, because each week, we bring you heartwarming, thought-provoking stories amid the rush of everyday life. Now, join me as we begin the journey of Elon Musk in the role of an invisible man, and see whether the world still remembers how to be kind. Part 1. A strange idea on an otherwise ordinary day. It was a gloomy afternoon inside a rare moment of quiet at the SpaceX headquarters. Elon Musk, a man known for coming up with hundreds of bold ideas every day, was, for once, deep in thought about something entirely different. Not rockets, not electric vehicles, not artificial intelligence, but people. How would people treat me if I were no one? No fame, no status, not a single dollar to my name? That question had sprung from a casual conversation with a colleague, and it lingered in his mind for weeks. It wasn't a tech challenge. It was a human experiment. A few days later, Elon made a decision no one saw coming. He would disguise himself as a homeless man. No press, no announcement, no cameras, just him and the world outside. He picked out old clothes from a local thrift store, a worn-out jacket with frayed shoulders, a pair of battered sneakers with soles nearly gone, a tangled wig, and a bit of makeup to dull the face the media knew so well. When he looked in the mirror, he froze. The reflection staring back wasn't Elon Musk, the billionaire pioneer, the tech industry icon. It was someone invisible. Maybe a man who once had it all and lost everything. Now I'll finally see how the world treats those who have nothing left to give. Elon stepped out of his office, carrying nothing but a small wallet, a curious heart, and a plan no one had ever thought to try. His destination? Copper Elm, an upscale, refined restaurant in the heart of Santa Fe, famous for its elite clientele, crystal glasses, and a version of politeness measured through subtle glances. A place clearly not meant for worn-out shoes or uninvited strangers. And he wondered, if I were just a tired, poor nobody, how would they see me? The experiment began the moment he pushed open the heavy wooden door of Copper Elm. And he had no idea he was about to witness one of the most revealing reflections of society he had ever seen. Part 2. When appearances become an invisible wall. Copper Elm, a name that felt as elegant as it was distant, glowed beneath crystal chandeliers like a modern-day castle. Inside, the soft clink of glasses harmonized with classical music drifting through the air. It was a place steeped in refinement, but not without silent judgment behind polished smiles. Elon, dressed in a worn-out coat, faded sneakers, and a scruffy wig, stepped slowly into the restaurant. For a moment, time stalled. The eyes of well-dressed patrons glanced his way, as if his presence was a wrinkle in their silk evening. Then, as quickly as the stares came, they returned to their red wine, their $100 steaks, pretending nothing. Out of place had happened. A hostess approached. Hair neatly pinned, black dress perfectly tailored. Her smile was practiced, but thin. Trained professionalism in her voice, but hesitation still flickered in her eyes. "Can I help you, sir?" she asked, gently but tightly. "I'd like a table for one," Elon replied calmly. She glanced over at the bar. where the manager was already watching. He gave a subtle shake of his head. Though several tables remained empty behind her, she responded with poise. "I'm sorry. We're fully booked this evening." For a beat, the air froze. Elon didn't argue, he didn't plead. He simply stood there, still, silent. And then something unexpected happened. From a tucked-away corner near the kitchen, a young waitress stepped forward. Her name was Anna. She'd only been working there a few months. Her face was kind, her eyes bright, and in her heart, a quiet dream to one day open a small restaurant of her own. But what made her different was the way she didn't look away. "I can serve him," Anna said clearly, softly but firmly. The room fell into a brief hush. The manager frowned. Some guests exchanged glances, a few even smirked. But Anna walked toward Elon, leading him to a small table near the kitchen, a seat few ever requested. "Take your time with the menu," she said, setting it down with a gentle smile. "No need to rush." Elon nodded in thanks. In his eyes there was warmth, a quiet emotion, and perhaps the beginning of something far bigger than just a meal. A social experiment had just been ignited by the simple kindness of one young woman. Part 3. The Stares and the Whispers. The meal began. On Elon's table, only a simple bowl of tomato soup and a few slices of crispy bread. The food was quiet in its simplicity, but the silence around him was anything but. Throughout the restaurant, the glances continued. Some were curious, some sympathetic, but most judgmental. A few diners whispered from behind their pristine white tablecloths. "Who is he supposed to be? He doesn't really belong here. If this keeps up, our regulars won't come back." The words weren't loud, but they rolled through the air like small waves, breaking against one unmoving wall. Elon. He didn't flinch, didn't show offense. He just ate quietly, slowly, as if savoring each spoonful, not with his taste buds, but with his observation. Every reaction, every raised brow, every sigh. He remembered them all. Anna, the young waitress, passed his table a few times. Each time, gentle, not hurried, not evasive like her coworkers. She always smiled, always asked if he needed anything, as if he were any other guest. Or perhaps someone more decent than the well-dressed crowd around him. But not everyone stayed silent like Elon. An older woman at a nearby table crossed her arms, eyes narrowed. When Anna came near, she lowered her voice, just enough for her companion, and Elon to hear. "Why waste your time on people like that? They only ruin everyone's appetite." Anna paused for a moment, then with a quiet breath, she responded, "Ma'am, I believe everyone deserves respect. Soup doesn't care what clothes you're wearing." The air shifted. The woman said nothing more, and turned her face away. Elon looked at Anna. In his eyes, there was something deeply stirred. Not just gratitude, admiration. Many had spoken to him over the years about values, kindness, and empathy. But this girl, with a few quiet actions and a single sentence, had awakened those very values long buried beneath all the luxury and spotlight. One small act, but it rang through the room like a bell calling people back to something real. And for Elon, a man who had traveled the world, it was the first time he truly felt seen, even while pretending to be invisible. Part 4. When silence becomes the loudest judgment. The meal was over. On the table, only an empty bowl of tomato soup remained, with a few scattered crumbs of bread. Elon gently set down his spoon and slowly lifted his gaze. The entire restaurant felt frozen, as if everyone was holding their breath under the weight of something unspoken. He stood up, walking deliberately across the polished wood floor. Each step in his worn shoes echoed like a soft knock on the conscience of the room. Every eye, whether hesitant or curious, turned toward the strange man in tattered clothes. Anna, the only waitress who had shown him kindness, paused mid-step with an empty tray in her hands. Her eyes fixed on him, filled with concern. Then the restaurant's manager, a stern-faced man in his 40s, rushed forward and spoke in a clipped, cold tone. "Sir, if you finished your meal, please leave the restaurant." Elon didn't flinch. He didn't raise his voice. He simply nodded, then responded. His voice low, steady, yet carrying across the room. "I will leave. But before I do, there's something I need to say." The room fell silent. Some whispered under their breath. Tension flickered across the faces of several diners, but no one looked away. Elon slowly reached up and removed the messy wig from his head. The entire restaurant fell still. The air felt thick, and the familiar face, the one seen on television, on magazine covers, at global summits, now stood before them, dressed as a man with nothing. From the back of the room, a soft, stunned whisper escaped. "Oh my God, Elon Musk." Elon nodded, then stepped forward again. "Tonight I didn't come here as a billionaire. I came as a nobody, someone you wouldn't look at twice, and what I witnessed was the raw truth about how people see each other." The silence deepened. The manager stood frozen. The same guests who had whispered now looked down at their plates. Elon continued, his gaze moving slowly across the room. "I saw the dismissive stares. I heard the whispers. I felt the avoidance. All of it because of appearance." Then he turned to Anna, her cheeks flushed, hands trembling just slightly. Elon offered a soft smile. "But there was one person, just one, who saw me as human, and that is worth more than the finest dish in this entire restaurant." His words landed like a bell toll, and beneath the stunned silence, a flicker of something deeper stirred. A quiet, reluctant awakening. Part 5. A gift not measured by value, but by heart. The air inside Copper Elm had fallen completely silent, as if every word Elon spoke left a quiet echo beating inside each listener's chest. All eyes were on him, but not with the curiosity of reading a headline over morning coffee. This was something different. They looked at him with awe, with shame, and with reflection. Elon turned, locking eyes with the young waitress standing frozen near the bar. Anna. She didn't speak. She only bowed her head, her hands trembling around the tray she still hadn't set down. He walked toward her and pulled a simple white envelope from the pocket of his worn coat. It wasn't a show. There were no cameras, no reporters, just one person recognizing something beautiful in another. He handed Anna the envelope, and in a voice full of sincerity said, "I don't need to know if you recognize me. What I know is that you treated a complete stranger with kindness, while everyone else turned away. That's not something most people would do." Anna slowly opened the envelope, her hands still shaking. Inside was a check, but it wasn't the number that made her breath catch. It was the handwritten note, carefully folded inside. "To Anna, the one who reminded me that kindness doesn't need a reason. Use this gift to go to school, open a restaurant, or do whatever you believe is right. The world needs more people like you." Tears spilled from her eyes. Gratitude, silent and deep, flowed down her cheeks. She had spent her youth working back-to-back shifts, dreaming of one day enrolling in culinary school. And now, that dream was right in front of her. The entire room remained still. Some guests covered their mouths, others bowed their heads. All the early whispers, the judgmental glances, now felt like knives turning inward. Elon turned toward the restaurant manager, the man who had wanted him removed simply for how he looked. "I don't blame you, but I hope that starting tomorrow, this place serves more than just good food. I hope it serves respect, because that's what brings people back." The manager nodded. He was no longer the proud man from earlier, but someone quietly relearning the most basic lesson of all: how to be human. And then, Elon walked out of the restaurant, like a passing breeze. No spotlight, no noise, only the quiet glow of a soul that chose to spread love. In silence. Part 6. Quiet but far-reaching. When kindness touches the heart. After Elon Musk quietly left Copper Elm, the once proud restaurant no longer felt the same. No one spoke. No one dared look each other in the eye. The gazes that once judged now turned downward. Not out of shame, but from a quiet reckoning within. Anna still stood there, the envelope in her hand, the handwritten words echoing in her heart. Kindness is the currency that never loses its value. A currency that never devalues. Because it's built on humanity. She didn't say a word. She simply folded the note gently, pressed it to her chest, feeling her heartbeat quicken. Not because of the money, but because for the first time in her life she felt truly seen. Not for how she looked, not for her title, not for her status, but for her heart. The restaurant manager, Mr. John, approached slowly. His face, once cold and calculating, was now visibly shaken. He stopped in front of Anna, unable to meet her eyes. His voice dropped. I was wrong. I didn't think you'd be the only one brave enough to do the right thing. Anna nodded softly. No resentment, no need for revenge. Because she understood. Kindness doesn't need a reward. It only needs to be shared. That night, in the small kitchen corner where staff usually gathered post-shift, there was no usual laughter, no playful teasing. Silence lingered. Until someone quietly said, "Maybe starting today, we should actually serve with heart." It wasn't loud, but it was the beginning of something big. John began hosting weekly meetings about respect, about treating every guest the same, whether they wore a pressed suit or a worn-out hoodie. The same coworkers who once smirked when Anna served Elon now looked at her with something new in their eyes. Respect. Anna didn't quit. But something had changed. With every step she took through the dining room, she no longer walked as just a waitress. She walked as a spark, a quiet force of inspiration. And when people looked at her with curiosity, she simply smiled and said, "I just did the right thing." One right choice, one act of courage, and a whole new chapter was written, not just for her, but for all the ones who once stood still. Part 7. From a small table to millions of hearts. When kindness becomes a legacy. 3 days after that fateful night at Copper Elm, a grainy video clip began spreading online. Footage of Elon Musk quietly removing his disguise and speaking, not about wealth or innovation, but about the human heart. At first, only a few hundred shares, then thousands, then millions. Within days, the video had gone viral. With tens of millions of views and thousands of tearful comments, headlines began flooding social media and news outlets. Elon Musk poses as homeless, and a waitress changes everything. When character defeats judgment, the billionaire's silent test stuns the world. Anna, the quiet waitress who once endured judgment in silence, suddenly became a symbol. Reporters came, talk shows called, but Anna didn't rush to speak. When she finally agreed to an interview, her voice remained as gentle as it had been that night. "I just did what everyone should do. Be kind to someone, even when you don't know anything about them." And then something remarkable happened. Restaurants across the country began holding training sessions on how to treat customers with dignity, regardless of appearance. Several people who had been present that night wrote personal letters of apology to Anna. They admitted that since then, they no longer look away when they pass a homeless person on the street. But perhaps the most moving story came from a 15-year-old girl in another state who posted this on social media. "Last night, my mom collapsed on the sidewalk. A homeless man helped her. I thought of Anna. I turned around and thanked him. Just one word. But for the first time, I saw someone's eyes light up, simply because they felt seen as a person." This story was never about the $50,000 check. It wasn't about fame. It lives on. In every small gesture, every look free of judgment. In a short interview weeks later, Elon Musk said something that left millions quietly reflecting. "We build technology to change the world, but sometimes A bowl of soup and a look free of prejudice can change the human heart even more. And it all began with a waitress, a small table, and the simple belief that kindness, at the right time and in the right way, can redefine what it means to be human. When a person is given power, they can choose dominance, or they can choose kindness. And Elon Musk, on a quiet evening inside a dazzling restaurant, showed the world that what makes him great isn't just the rockets he builds, but his unwavering faith in the goodness of people. Tonight's story isn't truly about a billionaire. It's about Anna, an ordinary waitress who chose to stand up for what was right when no one else dared. And because of that single courageous choice, her life turned a new page, a scholarship, a handwritten letter, and a message that made the world stop and reflect. Kindness is the currency that never loses its value. Expert insight. According to Dr. James Powell, a social psychologist at Stanford University, acts like Anna's may seem small, but they are the roots of community culture. They're what allow society not just to function, but to flourish. You may not be Elon Musk, you may not have 50,000 to give away, but you always have the choice to show kindness, to truly listen, and to look into someone's heart. Before you look at the shoes they're wearing, if this story warmed your heart, tap the like button, share a comment if you've ever witnessed an act of kindness, and subscribe to join us in spreading humanity, one story at a time. We'll see you again in the next episode, because this world could always use more people like you.